Well, James and I have a long background in printmaking, and that's how we started working together, doing comics, prints, self-publishing works. I do a lot of the illustrations and the stories, and James does the printmaking. And we've kind of functioned in that mode for a long time. But actually, I'm originally more of a multidisciplinary artist, so alongside doing the comics, I've always had a desire to be making other objects. So we did this book, and I wanted to sort of expand the universe. The world building and the storytelling part is like the most valuable thing for me. So this book was sort of like a starting off point, and we did this in 2019, and it's a bit of a sci-fi, speculative future of what the Gulf Coast might look like in 40 years, when the climate is even a more brutal place to live. And the protagonist is a subsistence farmer who's kind of trying to find a way to keep growing food and making it work, even though the soil is changing and the weather is changing. So keeping that in mind, I wanted to first really set the scene, and I wanted to think more about place and the place as a character. So I did these backdrops that are painted, made to read a bit as theatrical backdrops, and they're all different locations between Galveston and Houston. I think the furthest flung one is near Goose Island. The ice chest seating is just a playful thing. I feel like that's a common thing you see from commercial fishing, and if anything is gonna last through the apocalypse, it's an ice chest. So that was kind of stage one of building this out and trying to convey the universe. And stage two for me was also the comic is a lot about what's literally happening in the story, but I've had this desire to sort of take on the role more of a songwriter, where you're sort of trying to project through the character and write in a different voice. And so I started thinking about what's the spiritual life of this character, and I wanted to make some future mythological stories that this person might invent through their new relationship with nature and how they're negotiating these harsh times. So the work that's in the vault is kind of based on that, trying to make objects that they might make, and how are they emotionally, morale, getting through this time, how did they parse that? And we did ceramics in there for that. Like Dennis said, most of this work we made at a residency called Bemis that's in Omaha, Nebraska. And this is actually, we've worked together a lot, but this was a new experience for us.
Oh, yeah, certainly.
To do, more of a, full-out installation together, rather than just, you do the printing, I do the book, and it's very, segregated type of making. Well, James created, both the sound, the field recording sound elements in this room and that room.
Yeah, sure. So we had taken a couple of trips in the lead up to the show, and we tried to collect field recordings from different locations around Houston. I think in this room particularly we have recordings from the Aransas National Wildlife Refuge was a place that we went to. We also went to the Goose Island State Park, which is kind of featured in this kind of backdrop painting over here. And then in the vault, we kind of collected different sounds. Those are kind of more of an urban type of sound during storms. And we kind of collected, we wanted to make a cave type of sound. So we got a little bit of sound recording from a storm drain during a thunderstorm. So that's got the cavernous kind of dripping sounds and whatnot. And I think that was really fun to kind of experiment with, was adding the sound component. Because we've done a lot of reading room type of immersive installations. But just having the sound involved really seemed to kind of provide a different effect. So it's something I'm looking forward to working with more. And,
Yeah, using the vault was really fun.
Yeah.
It's a unique space, and I was oh, this is a great place to tap into, or it's a great sort of metaphor for an internal life. Because it's secluded and cave-like in there.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
for
your work.
Of course.
Does anyone have any questions while we're all here? You could open up to one or two. Anyone said?
If you were curious to read books, there's copies downstairs.
There's copies downstairs. And a big part of this artist talk is so now you know. This is Sarah. This is Jane. So hang out and talk. We're going to then maybe take a minute and move next door to talk with Dual.